Hi, class. We're going to look at chapter 22.1, that first section. It's about early astronomy. Just want to let you know again that a good part of the quizzes on this first section is going to be on the early astronomers, which you need to look over your worksheet on early astronomers, that grid that you completed. Make sure it's all the way completed, filled out, and you study it. It will definitely help you out. I want to go over a couple of concepts that are mentioned in this section 1 of chapter 22. Before we really move on, I just want to talk about astronomy and what it is. A lot of people, mention that it's about planets and stars and galaxies, and actually we need to sum it up and be a little bit more general. And astronomy is the science that studies the universe, and all those things I just mentioned is part of that. The first concept we want to look at in this section is the geocentric model. The geocentric model was thought of by the Greeks, ancient Greeks, and basically what they're saying is the Earth is the center of our universe and everything else rotates around it. And what they believed is that the Earth was motionless, that it didn't move, and that all the stars and the planets were, they called it a celestial sphere. And basically what you can think of that is a kind of a plastic globe that surrounds the Earth, and all the stars and the planets are on that globe, that they're the same distance away from the Earth as everything else is. And one thing they did make an adjustment in is that they said some of the planets could move a little different, like the moon, or Saturn, not Saturn, but Mars and Mercury, compared to all the different stars. Now, there was one Greek philosopher, Aristarchus, that believed that that was not true, that the sun was actually the center of the universe and everything rotated around it. Well, he was not. People didn't accept his idea of this until Copernicus. He was one of the first modern astronomers. He concluded that the Earth is the center. I mean, not the center. That the sun is the center, and that the Earth rotates around the sun with all the other planets, and that the Earth actually rotates. The next, thing we want to look at in this section is the laws of motion. Kepler is the astronomer that came up with these 3 laws of motion, and I basically paraphrased these compared to the book. I would definitely look over the laws of the motion in the book to get the exact terminology. But the first thing he stated was all planets travel in an ellipse. And an ellipse is an oval, basically an oval. And so let's draw one and see if I can, somewhat in this manner. The planets will all travel in this direction. Now, within this orbit, we have the sun. And let's say the sun is in this position. The sun is not perfectly in the center of all the planetary orbits. And it leads us to the next law of motion. Planet speeds up when near the sun. So if we look at the speed of a planet as it's traveling, as it's getting closer to the sun, like in this part right here, it is speeding up. As it moves away farthest from the sun, it's actually slowing down, and that's due to the gravitational pull of the sun. And then the last, third one, is the larger the planetary orbit, that's the larger the ellipse, the planet will take longer to orbit the sun. And that makes sense because if it's bigger, it's just going to take longer for that planet to make one complete orbit around the sun. And the very last thing that we want to look at is gravity. Sir Isaac Newton did a lot of studying of gravity, and here's some things that he came up with. First, gravity increases with mass. And let's just talk about the moon and sun relationship a little bit. We know that the moon has a certain mass and that it impacts the Earth. And one of the ways it impacts the Earth is by causing the tides. And it has that gravitational pull on the water, which causes the tides to come in and out. Now, if the moon was even more massive, it would have even greater impact on the Earth. So gravity is altered by the mass of the object. Another thing that Newton found is gravity decreases with distance. So if you're increased, a distance far from an object, the gravitational pull is decreased. And then the last thing is gravity plus the object wanting to stay in a straight line. Those two affect each other to form that elliptical orbit that planets travel around the sun. If you have any questions during class, let me know. Again, the parts that I just covered right here are just some key concepts of this section. You also need to study the early astronomer's sheet that you completed in class for the quiz. Again, any questions, let me know.